Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into the absolutely incredible life of Nien Cheng. Her memoir, Life and Death in Shanghai, tells a profound story of resilience, and we're going to break down how she managed to survive the absolute storm of China's Cultural Revolution.
So, our story kicks off on the night of August 30th, 1966 in Shanghai. And for Nien Cheng, the knock at her door isn't a surprise. Actually, she's been waiting for them. For nights, she's been sitting up, listening, just refusing to be caught off guard by the inevitable.
And when a group of teenage Red Guards finally does burst into her home, she confronts them. She's holding a copy of the Chinese Constitution, which, clearly states no one can just enter a private home without a warrant. But a young man, maybe 17 years old, just snatches the book from her, throws it on the floor, and says, "The Constitution is abolished." And just like that, the rule of law completely evaporates right in front of her.
That one single violent act, it signals the total destruction of her entire world. It kicks off a chain of events that would test her to her absolute limits. And it forces us to ask, how did a woman like her, with her standing, become a target of this revolution in the first place?
To really understand her fall from grace, we have to back up a little. We have to understand the world she actually came from. Her life was so refined, so international. It was a world away from the revolutionary ideology that was about to try and destroy her.
I mean, look at this. Nien Cheng was a product of a truly global world. She studied in London, traveled all over, and after her husband passed away, she took on this high-powered advisory job with Shell. Her home was basically a sanctuary of culture, filled with antiques and incredible art. And it was this life of education and refinement, that made her a symbol of the old ways that the Cultural Revolution was dead set on wiping out.
You see, Mao Zedong's Cultural Revolution wasn't just some political movement. It was a period of intense and often tragically absurd social upheaval that touched every single part of daily life.
This whole campaign to kill sparrows just perfectly illustrates the sheer irrationality of the time. Nien Cheng actually wrote about how every single family had to participate. Her own daughter was required to bring 2 dead sparrows to school. Their solution was this dark, absurd comedy. Their cook would ride his bicycle out to the countryside to buy dead sparrows from peasants who saw a business opportunity. This one policy ultimately led to a massive ecological disaster and made the ongoing famine even worse.
The destruction of her home, that was only the beginning. Soon after that raid, Nien Cheng was arrested and thrown into prison, accused of being an enemy of the state. And this is where her real ordeal began.
She would spend 6.5 years in solitary confinement. Just think about that. For over 2,300 days, her entire world was shrunk down to a single small cell, with only her own mind for company.
Now, her captors weren't just after a confession for its own sake. She figured out pretty quickly that their goal was much, much bigger. By forcing her to admit she was a spy, they could basically forge a political weapon to use against a more moderate faction in the Communist Party, a group led by Zhou Enlai. Her personal fate was just a pawn in a much larger power struggle.
But she refused to be a pawn. See, Nien Cheng had spent her free time studying Marxist theory, reading Mao's writings, trying to understand the system she was living in. And in this incredible reversal, she used that knowledge against her own interrogators. She would quote Mao right back at them, completely dismantling their arguments. She wasn't just fighting back with spirit, she was fighting back with her intellect.
But amidst all that constant brutality, there were these tiny flickering moments of humanity. After one really brutal interrogation, a young kitchen worker risked severe punishment to hide 2 hard-boiled eggs in Nien's rice bowl. The girl didn't say a word, just told Nien loudly to leave the container for the guard on duty, a really clever way to protect them both. It was this silent, profound act of compassion that helped keep her going through the darkness.
While Nien Cheng was enduring the horrors of prison, the revolution was just raging on outside. And in its fury, it would claim the one person she loved most in the world, her daughter, Mei Pang.
When Nien Cheng was finally released, she was given the absolutely devastating news that her daughter had committed suicide. It was a lie. Years later, after Mao's death, people finally started to talk. A doctor, a former school friend of Mai Peng's, came forward and revealed the truth. She had seen Mai Peng's body that day. It was covered in wounds. She hadn't jumped. She had been beaten to death.
So despite unimaginable loss, torture, and grief, Nien Cheng did not emerge from prison a broken woman. Not at all. Instead, she came out with this clear, powerful philosophy for survival, one that she had forged in the darkest of places.
The first core principle she took from her study of Marxism was this theory of constant change. She came to believe that because life is never static, no problem can be permanent. Trapped in her cell, this wasn't some abstract idea, it was her lifeline. It meant that even her imprisonment had to end eventually. This belief gave her a reason to hold on, to never give up hope, because change was simply inevitable.
Her second guiding principle was that economics is the bedrock of any society. And again, this wasn't just some abstract theory for her, it was a practical tool. It allowed her to look right past the slogans and propaganda of her interrogators and analyze the real forces that had turned her life upside down. It gave her a framework to understand the motivations behind all the chaos, transforming her from a victim into an analyst of her own situation.
Nien Cheng's story is an extraordinary piece of history, but it's so much more than that. It's a profound testament to the power of intellectual resistance, of personal dignity, and just the sheer force of the human spirit. Her life really forces us to look inward and ask a pretty fundamental question. What is the source of our own resilience, and what gives us the strength to endure the unthinkable?